A new aircraft recently landed on the runway in Ouagadougou, but its arrival was not marked by parades, ceremonial flyovers, or the presence of Western media. Yet the moment Air Burkina's new Embraer 170 touched down, a quiet but significant milestone was achieved. For the first time in its history, Burkina Faso was not renting its wings, it owned them. This acquisition was not a diplomatic gift, a leased vessel, or a second-hand transfer. The aircraft is national property, a development that has sent subtle shockwaves through the continent's aviation industry. For decades, Air Burkina operated with a patchwork of foreign leases, aging fleets, and a deep-seated bureaucratic dependence. The airline flew aircraft built and financed by European hands, with maintenance contracts, spare parts, and flight management all externalized. Until this point, Burkina Faso had never truly controlled the skies above its own land. The decision to purchase a brand new Embraer 170, a modern twin-engine regional jet from Brazil, represents more than an economic strategy. It is an act of political defiance. The move was orchestrated under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, whose government has prioritized national sovereignty, self-reliance, and a break from historically Western-led systems. In his public addresses, Captain Traoré has often spoken of reclaiming not just the ground beneath Burkinabe feet, but the air above as well. The timing of this purchase is critical. The political landscape of West Africa is undergoing a significant reconfiguration, with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso collectively turning away from France, challenging colonial-era agreements, and forming new military and economic alliances. While the acquisition of a single commercial jet might seem like a minor detail in this geopolitical shift, its implications are profound. To own a jet is to own a route, to decide where it flies, what it carries, and who it serves. For Burkina Faso, this opens the door to independent air routes between Sahelian states, bypassing traditional airline monopolies and Eurocentric hubs. It promises more affordable cargo flights for key exports like minerals, faster medical evacuations, and the growth of regional tourism that no longer requires a layover in Paris. Symbolically, it strikes at the heart of the dependency model that has long defined African aviation. However, the events that followed this quiet breakthrough have veered into the surreal. As official news of the Embraer purchase spread, a wave of digital content erupted not from state channels, but from anonymous accounts on TikTok, Telegram, and YouTube. This online activity did not celebrate the jet itself, but instead promoted a far grander narrative, that Burkina Faso was not just buying planes, but secretly building them. Suddenly, the factual story of the Embraer acquisition became fuel for a rapidly expanding myth. Edited videos appeared online showcasing advanced aircraft adorned with Burkinabe flags, subterranean hangars, and a fictional Burky Air logo stamped on futuristic wings. Some posts claimed a new aerospace program had been launched in complete secrecy, while others alleged that Captain Traoré had secured deals with Iran, China, or Russia to transfer aerospace technology to the heart of the Sahel. In this digital crucible, a simple aircraft purchase was transformed into the seed of a powerful legend, blurring the lines between reality and imagination. The Embraer 170 jet is a tangible asset, but the claims that followed its arrival are far more elusive. Could a single aircraft purchase genuinely spark the genesis of an entire domestic industry? Or is something more deliberate unfolding behind the scenes? Let us pause for a moment to express our sincere gratitude to the African Intel community. Your trusted gateway to authentic African voices, powerful stories, and enduring legacies that continue to inspire and uplift. Almost immediately following the aircraft's arrival, stories began to proliferate online. These narratives did not originate from journalists, diplomats, or official government communiques, but from anonymous social media accounts publishing slick videos set to dramatic music. Featuring grainy factory shots and slogans like "Africa rises from the skies," the content all coalesced around a single, previously unknown name, Burky Air. According to these viral posts, Burky Air is not merely an airline, but Burkina Faso's clandestine aerospace project, operating under a veil of revolutionary pride and military silence. One clip purported to show young Burkinabe engineers walking alongside a stealth fighter. Another claimed a hangar on the outskirts of Koudougou was assembling the nation's first indigenous passenger jet. The narrative suggested the entire program was personally greenlit by President Traoré under a broader industrial strategy for technological sovereignty, rumored to be called Traoré Tech. The story was intoxicating. Burkina Faso had secretly leapfrogged into the aerospace age while the world was distracted. However, any attempt to verify these claims reveals a complete lack of corroborating evidence. There is no business registration under the name Burky Air. No announcements have been issued by the Ministry of Transport or the Ministry of Defense. Satellite imagery shows no evidence of aircraft production zones, and there has been no press coverage, local or international, confirming the existence of even a prototype. Despite the absence of proof, the content continues to spread. One TikTok video, showing a fighter jet taking off with the Burkinabe flag digitally overlaid on its tail, amassed a significant audience. Another presented an interview with the supposed CEO of Burky Air, who, with a blurred face and distorted voice, spoke of revolutionizing African mobility without offering any credentials or history. Significantly, these videos have garnered millions of views across Francophone Africa, fostering a growing belief that Burkina Faso has achieved the impossible by building its own aircraft in silence and under siege. This phenomenon has evolved beyond mere clickbait into a social movement. Supporters have dubbed it the Sky Sovereignty Doctrine, with hashtags such as Daba Burki Air, Traoré Tech, and Africa Can Fly trending online. The narrative has drawn attention from Pan-African influencers, former military personnel, and disillusioned engineers in neighboring countries. Adding to the intrigue is the government's official response: silence. Not a single official has publicly denied the claims. This silence, whether strategic or accidental, has only fueled the speculation. Is this a deliberate use of ambiguity as part of a military disinformation campaign? Or is the government simply allowing a viral myth to flourish as a symbol of national rebirth? Analysts are divided. Some believe this is propaganda by design, a sophisticated psychological operation where the illusion of aircraft production is more valuable than actual production. The intended message is one of strength and defiance. Burkina Faso is building a future on its own terms, beyond the view of international observers. Others warn that this is dangerous myth-making. If international actors begin to believe that advanced weapon systems are secretly in development, it could invite unwanted scrutiny, sanctions, or even acts of sabotage. Furthermore, if the claims are proven false, it risks discrediting the real, tangible progress being made in other sectors. Yet for the average Burkinabe citizen viewing this content, the literal truth may be secondary. What matters most is the imagery. For the first time in generations, the depiction of Burkina Faso is not one of poverty, conflict, or dependence, but one of engineers, advanced jets, and sovereign skies. This raises critical questions. If Burky Air is a fiction, who is authoring and funding the myth, and what is its ultimate purpose? To begin to answer that, one must analyze the current reality of the nation's airspace, not through online fiction, but through cold, hard flight data. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on African intel, stories, history, and identity. While the mystery of Burky Air exists somewhere between strategic narrative and online fantasy, another aviation transformation is quietly and tangibly unfolding over Burkina Faso, one that is not AI-generated, exaggerated, or imaginary. This is the country's helicopter revolution, and it is fundamentally changing how the nation moves, works, and addresses conflict. Shifting the focus from jet aircraft, the true muscle in Burkina Faso's current airspace transformation is found not in jet engines, but in rotor blades. This development began in 2019, long before viral clips of secret factories emerged, with the establishment of a bold new aviation firm in Ouagadougou, Faso Aircraft Services (FAS). In a region where road infrastructure is often unreliable and distances are vast, FAS was founded on a core principle frequently overlooked in African logistics. The most effective way to serve the nation is to fly over it. Starting with a modest fleet that included Eurocopter Dolphin N3 and AS350 Écureuil Squirrel models, FAS carved out a unique and critical role. It began serving remote mining hubs, conducting urgent medical evacuations, and offering executive charters to areas inaccessible by conventional ground or air transport. Within 2 years, FAS had evolved from a novelty into a lifeline. When flooding trapped workers in the gold-rich eastern provinces, it was FAS helicopters that performed the rescues. When international NGOs needed emergency access to conflict zones, they called on FAS for reliable transport. A crucial, yet often overlooked aspect of this development was its indigenous nature. This was the first time a Burkinabe company had offered sustained local helicopter services without outsourcing operations, maintenance, and training to entities in Europe or South Africa. Pilots were being trained locally, maintenance was increasingly performed in-country, and their operational tempo matched, and in some cases outpaced, that of foreign contractors in the region. This burgeoning ecosystem was further strengthened by key partnerships. The IAS Group, a major aviation provider from Côte d'Ivoire, established a formal presence in Burkina Faso, collaborating with FAS to expand both pilot training and flight coverage. With backing from IAS, the nation's rotorcraft network grew more reliable and cost-effective. Concurrently, Germany's Global Helicopter Service, GHS, entered the scene, not for commercial profit, but to operate vital humanitarian missions. GHS helicopters now fly sorties deep into areas cut off by armed insurgency, where no plane can land and no truck can pass, to deliver critical supplies and conduct medical airlifts. The cumulative impact of these developments is significant. While the idea of domestically built jets may still be a dream, Burkina Faso is already mastering the sky in a different form. Its growing helicopter fleet is saving lives, powering key industries, and methodically building the human capital and logistical infrastructure required for a future aviation industry. Every pilot, technician, and logistics coordinator trained under FAS or IAS represents a new generation of Burkinabe aviation professionals, the very people who would be essential to operating any future domestic aircraft program. Furthermore, in a country facing internal conflict, helicopters are not a luxury but a strategic necessity. The Burkinabe Armed Forces now operate a fleet including Mi-17, AS-350, and AW-139 helicopters. These assets are used to conduct security operations, resupply remote bases, and patrol borders that are unreachable by ground vehicles. While these helicopters are not manufactured locally, they are being flown, maintained, and deployed by Burkinabe hands. That fact alone marks a tectonic shift away from past dependency. This success naturally leads to the question of what comes next. If helicopters are already proving effective and are transforming how Burkina Faso operates, the next logical step is to expand their scale. As Burkina Faso begins to claim the sky, another reality emerges. The more a nation flies, the more it must control the systems behind the flight. This includes not only the aircraft, but the parts, the training, and the technology that sustain the journey. And that leads us into a deeper, more strategic narrative. One not captured by viral videos, but written through procurement deals, industrial investments, and long-term national ambition. Burkina Faso's recent strides in helicopter operations have demonstrated a key point. Flight without Western dependency is possible, at least to some degree. The country has shown it can own and operate aircraft with a degree of autonomy, but operating helicopters, no matter how advanced or critical their missions, is still a world apart from manufacturing them. The leap from aircraft operator to aircraft builder is not simply a technological one. It is an industrial transformation, complex, expensive, and rooted in infrastructure. And this is where the true challenge lies. Manufacturing even the most basic components of an aircraft, such as landing gear, fuel valves, or composite panels, requires a dense network of specialized assets, high-tech design labs, robotic assembly lines, certified engineers, quality assurance systems, and internationally recognized aeronautical regulatory bodies. These capabilities are not developed overnight. They are cultivated over decades, often with guidance and support from established aerospace nations. At present, Burkina Faso lacks this foundation. The country has no aerospace manufacturing sector, no metallurgical labs producing aviation-grade alloys, No universities offering advanced degrees in aerospace engineering or composite materials, and no certified domestic suppliers of avionics or turbine components. Most critically, there is no national regulatory authority with the ability to certify aircraft to international safety standards. Still, that does not mean nothing is happening. Beneath the noise of online speculation, a quieter, more strategic foundation is being laid. The government of Captain Ibrahim Traoré has begun focusing on industrial development in adjacent sectors that could, over time, form the backbone of a future aviation ecosystem. One such sector is energy. Over the past year, Burkina Faso has signed multiple memoranda of understanding with countries like Russia and Rwanda, specifically around nuclear cooperation. These agreements are not about weapons. They are focused on civilian energy production and scientific research. Once operational, nuclear reactors could power more than just homes and businesses. They could energize future industrial corridors, including those required for aircraft manufacturing. In parallel, the government has increased investments in agro-processing, mining technologies, and domestic gold refining. These industries depend on high-precision machinery, logistics, and a skilled technical workforce. The same engineers working on refining systems today could become the technicians building hydraulic systems for aircraft landing gear tomorrow, if the right educational and industrial conversion strategies are put in place. Then there is the matter of global partnerships. As relations with the West cool, Burkina Faso has been strengthening ties with alternative powers such as Iran, Russia, and China. Nations with established aerospace industries and histories of technology transfer to aligned states. Iran, for instance, has helped Venezuela develop domestic UAV and drone manufacturing capabilities, even under international sanctions. Russia has long collaborated with Algeria and Egypt on aircraft maintenance and pilot training. China has exported low-cost civilian aircraft and drone systems across Africa, often tying these exports to local assembly partnerships and training programs. If Burkina Faso intends to build aircraft, it will not do so alone. It will likely begin by following a well-worn path, partnering with a willing aerospace ally, assembling aircraft kits, producing subcomponents, and gradually transferring skills and technology over the span of a decade or more. This model is not unprecedented. Brazil followed it in the early days of Embraer, first producing aircraft under license before designing its own. Turkey entered the drone industry through joint ventures and military innovation. India's aerospace journey began with licensed production of Soviet MiG fighters, laying the foundation for today's Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Burkina Faso may not yet have the factories, labs, or certifications, but it is beginning to gather the raw materials of ambition: energy infrastructure, industrial diversification, and geopolitical partnerships. The dream of becoming an aviation producer is distant, but not impossible. The blueprint exists. The question is not whether Burkina Faso can do it, but whether it is willing to stay the course. The final component in this equation is education. A quiet but determined push is underway to reorient Burkina Faso's universities and technical colleges toward applied sciences. Reports suggest new scholarships are being offered for aeronautical studies abroad, while the establishment of schools focused on mechanics, metallurgy, and electronics is expanding in tandem with President Traoré's vision of national self-sufficiency. Therefore, while there is no secret hangar in Ouagadougou churning out stealth bombers, the foundational architecture that could one day make such an ambition possible is beginning to appear piece by piece across the energy, education, and industrial sectors. This brings the analysis full circle. Perhaps the viral myth of Burky Air was not an outright fabrication, but rather a projection, a psychological prototype for a future not yet born, but being meticulously planned. When a nation internalizes such a powerful myth, it rarely remains a fiction for long. The Burky Air phenomenon, while debunked by experts and disconnected from any tangible aircraft production, has nonetheless planted something real and unshakable in the national consciousness: a public mandate for industrial greatness. What began as digital fiction is rapidly becoming a political force, a cultural expectation, and potentially a national obligation. This demand is no longer abstract. Across online forums, community radio stations, and university campuses in Ouagadougou and Bobo Dioulasso, youth movements are echoing a single insistent question. If not now, when? The images of jets and engineers, whether real or fabricated, have inspired something far more powerful than technology: imagination. Once that force is unleashed, it becomes dangerous for any leadership to ignore. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who has positioned himself as the face of anti-imperial African self-determination, now finds himself at a crossroads. It was one thing to promise gold refineries, agricultural sovereignty, and the expulsion of foreign troops, but aviation manufacturing is in a different league entirely. The myth has now made this ambition personal, inextricably linking the president's image with the vision of a modern aerospace nation, whether he intended it or not. By allowing the narrative to flourish, his government now faces immense political pressure to deliver on a promise it never officially made. This pressure is amplified by the deep symbolism of air power in the Sahel. Land can be claimed and resources can be stolen, but controlling the air represents the ultimate expression of sovereignty and freedom. The myth of Burky Air provides Burkina Faso's youth with a vision of power that does not rely on colonial pathways or foreign aid. It promises factories instead of relief packages, technicians instead of NGO workers, and pilots instead of poverty. It offers the hope of a future where Africans are not just passengers, but the builders and controllers of their own mobility. The government, now aware that this inspiring myth has become a political liability, has reportedly begun to act. Officials in the Ministry of Innovation are rumored to be holding closed-door meetings to assess feasibility studies on local component manufacturing. Unconfirmed reports suggest preliminary talks with Middle Eastern and Asian nations for training programs, assembly kits, and potential drone development labs. Predictably, opposition critics are accusing the government of leveraging the myth for political distraction, arguing that cultivating unrealistic hopes could backfire catastrophically if results do not materialize. Supporters, however, view the situation differently. They argue the myth is not a lie, but a challenge thrown down to the state, a challenge it now has no choice but to answer. The public expects visible progress: new aerospace schools, pilot academies, drone initiatives, and domestic maintenance programs. They expect to see blueprints, not just TikToks. This is no longer a test of engineering, it is a test of national credibility. If the vision of Burky Air is allowed to fade, it could be perceived as a profound betrayal. Conversely, if even pieces of it are realized, it could cement Traoré's place in history. The question is no longer whether Burky Air is real. The question is, can the government afford for it not to be? In today's Burkina Faso, belief moves faster than bureaucracy, and once a people begin to dream at altitude, no leader can keep them grounded for long. The countdown has begun, not for the next jet arrival, but for the first sign that something truly Burkinabe is being built, not just flown. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe President Traoré will turn this vision into reality? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more stories that explore untold African stories, culture, history, and power, make sure to subscribe to African Intel and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, and stay connected.